Britt, as you look around,
what's up, everybody? This is the Jay Reyes Perspective, and I know I said I was looking at political, but come on, people, this is gonna affect us. It's the second and the last debate, and we gotta hear what's going on. All I hope for is for the person running the debate, the moderator, to be fair. Just be fair across. Ask the right questions. If it was up to me, I would say that every question should be answered by both, not nitpicking. No nitpicking. Let's just go up straight up with what's real, what the policies are to get voted. Not, they're gonna talk about the pandemic. I understand if I own a company and the company that I own is at fault for something to break out. But this is something that happened naturally, right? Supposedly. It didn't come from the United States. So how could you blame anybody? You can't blame anybody. You understand? That's what I'm saying. And that's what they're going to, I'm pretty sure, pick on. And it makes no sense. They're only targeting people that won't take it to another level and say, all right, we already know. Let's move on. Let's move on. Because we're talking from November 3rd, what is going to happen from November 3rd on for the people. As you know, 50 Cent pointed out that he's running for a certain individual. I'm not going to say who, because the other side is talking about in New York, 62% of taxes that you're going to pay. Now, I don't know if you guys are getting paid out there, but right now, do the math. Your annual salary, 62% of it that goes to the government. Just do it right now. I'm just being honest, because I went to college for a lot of years. I like what I do, and I like how much I make. I ain't trying to give nobody no 60% of what I make. You know what I'm saying? So it's about to go in now.
With 12 days to go until this presidential
election. All right, let's go.
First question tonight will go to President Trump, kicking off the final showdown in a race.
Let's just be fair. That's all I said. Let's be fair.
Have already voted.
Extraordinary.
Let's go.
Tonight's debate is supposed to stick
to
half a dozen topics.
And of course, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
But of course, this is 2020.
This is brought to you by
anything can happen based on what we
Pito's
saw the first
Coquito.
time
Don't
around.
forget,
We've
Pito's
had 90
Coquito.
minutes of debate between these two candidates.
It'll be on Pito's Coquito.
Panel. Let's go to Chris Wallace.
LLC on Facebook and on Instagram. Pito Coquito LLC on Instagram and on Facebook.
Well, I was thinking about it. I can't help. I think every moderator ends up feeling empathy for somebody else who's at that chair. You've done a tremendous
Oh, shut up, bro. Look who's talking. Yo, dude, shut up. You already had your chance. Nobody cares about you. You feel empathy. Shut up. Dude, shut up. Shut up. You're not supposed to be giving opinions. Este tipo defendiendo a one of the candidates. That was mad corny. I'm just saying, just be fair. You know what I'm saying? Being a president is a real deal. You never know what other people in other countries how they're gonna try to run you. Let's get it on.
It's a tense moment, and you sort of put yourself
pasó? Dijeron a las 9.
One president and one who wants to be president. It's an incumbent president at this point who's fighting to hold on to his job.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not even in the debate hall, and I can feel the tension. So
I don't feel no tension. It is what it is.
What it feels like
one of them,
I also would just say
if they lose, they're going to just go back to the jet-setting lifestyle, and we're going to be ended up paying 62% taxes. That's what I'm saying. That's my reality. This is the Jay Reyes Perspective. That's what I'm... Yo, eso mucho taxe. Si tú ganas chavo y ganas poco, do the 60%, 62% from lo poco que tú ganas. I'm just keeping it 1,000, King.
Yeah, I do.
Vamos.
I think from what we read in the
No, I
papers,
didn't say. Esto
what
va a
I hear
empezar a las
from
9
the
y está
Trump
empezando
world is that,
tarde.
even he understands that he was a
Yo,
little too
pink
hot
is
and
making
too
me look
aggressive in the
gordo.
first one.
Damn. And
But,
I'm not fat. This is muscle relaxing.
We were talking about getting
This
nervous.
is
here,
muscle
Dave.
relaxing,
I've
people.
been in the
Esta
backstage of
pipa,
6 of
that's
these
muscle
things for the
relaxing.
presidential candidate and then a president. And let me just tell you, this is worse than election night because so much hinges on the outcome of these things. And then particularly,
They should have like
I
a
think that's going to be
like a hood version of this, right? Because everything here is according to their perspective of the way they live their lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, they're trying to be polished and everything.
Two men
That's
who
when
very much want to
Trump
lead this
blows up
nation
and says
over the
something
course of
crazy.
the next 4 years, and
The
we
people
do
that
it
we
in
be like, yo,
difficult, complicated
crazy,
times.
he crazy.
We'll see how they do.
Let's listen in.
Mira esa odiosa, ya se ve odiosa.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee.
¿Cómo estás?
I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to
Hi,
the
Kristen
final
Welker.
2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers,
coquito?
boos, or other
Christian,
interruptions,
¿quiere coquito?
except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden
Listen,
and
right now.
President Donald J. Trump.
¿Quiere coquito, pai? ¿Quiere coquito? ¿Quiere coquito? ¿Ustedes quieren coquito? Bébelo despacito. All right, let's go. Let's make it fair.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word.
Sounds
what
fair.
you both have
For now.
to say.
Vamos a ver.
And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone.
Look,
and there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone.
Is he an alien?
We have a vaccine that's coming.
It's
ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital, I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators, we're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away. And as I say, we're rounding the turn. We're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day.
Okay, but I want to hear
Compared
how you're going to make it better. Let's
what's
go.
going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate.
Okay, we know. How you going to make it better? I want to hear.
Expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead.
Look, he has on his mask. Look,
for just more of these
it looks like he got a mask on.
President
Look, he doesn't got his
Biden
mask
told
on. Look.
we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid
But you're not wearing a mask now.
Rapid
That doesn't
testing.
make no
I'd
sense.
Sure
I'm just keeping it 1,000.
National standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses
And
so
Trump,
they can be safe.
por favor,
and give them the
you're being too
wherewithal,
calm.
financial resources to be
We're gonna
able
be
to
like,
do
yo, that
that.
wasn't Trump. That was
We're in a situation now.
That was an
where
imposter.
the
You better
New
stop
England Medical
flipping.
Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has
Do
responded.
you hear
to
any,
this
like,
crisis
what is he
has
going to
been
do about it if
absolutely
he
tragic.
becomes the president?
And so
I don't hear nothing.
I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
Where?
President
What's the
Trump,
plan?
I'd like to
But what's the plan?
Your comments.
What's the plan?
Therapeutic, I assume you're referencing Regeneron.
He didn't say nothing about a plan. He just complained about what happened.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. And then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you because this is new information. You have said a vaccine is coming soon within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're.
Yeah, but see, this is what I'm saying. She could have told him, okay, but now tell me part of your plan. Second part, like, okay, Joe, we heard that. Joe, but you didn't tell us a plan. You wasn't. Where's his plan? He said we're gonna have a plan. That's where it's not fair already. I'm just pointing it out with my pink shirt.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you,
okay,
don't worry,
we're not doing this.
The summer.
We're not talking bad about each other anymore. We're talking policies, Biden. I want policies.
That there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the
deflect the question.
before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you
I
have
don't
no
think we're going
plan.
to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China
talking
from
about a
coming in
plan,
heavily infected, and then
talking about what he
ultimately
did.
But China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, "Oh, I should have, moved."
Guys,
quicker."
don't do the
So
back
he
and
didn't move
forth
quicker.
thing.
He was months behind.
Dude,
Many months
Trump,
behind
don't
me.
do that.
And frankly,
Keep your
he
policy.
ran
Don't
the
talk about your policy.
H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster.
Trump, no, don't do this. I'm not with that. Talk policies. Don't do this. You playing his game, bro.
But it was a far
Brother, lo está
less
cagando
lethal
ya.
disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his
This is
chief of
corny.
staff,
Trump, don't
said
do that,
it
bro.
was
Just talk about your
catastrophic.
policy.
It was horrible. We didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way, every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way
I don't like
behind
this part.
us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down
Again, the
access
attacks.
from China.
You're not
And
talking
he did
plan.
it late
You
after
still haven't
some
set a
countries had
policy.
already done that.
Everything is
In
attacked.
addition to that, what he did,
Papa,
he made
people
sure
gotta
that
see this for
44
real. Gotta
people
be
that were
real.
in there
If
in
you're gonna keep
China trying to
attacking
get the
without no
real
plan,
lies to
or I'll
determine
set up a
what
plan.
exactly the source was. What did the
Trump,
president say,
don't
Jay?
fall for that.
He said,
Just
no,
go
he said,
and
this is-
talk
he's being
policy.
transparent. The president
Yo, these people
Trump
gonna
is
make
being
me drink
transparent.
Coquito.
We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started
Oh my
talking
God,
about
is
using the
delicious.
Defense Act to make
Not
sure we
because
go out and get whatever is
I make
needed
it, but this is
out there
delicious.
to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about,
Yeah, what is this, a novela?
Don't worry. It's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious.
Is this a
scientist in the
debate?
world
Really?
that's just gonna
I don't
be
know.
over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
Say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We
Trump,
can't lock
just
ourselves up in
those
a
questions are
basement
whack.
like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And because of every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to.
Yo, I'm
It would be
already getting a
horrible to
buzz,
cancel
kid.
everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors.
So
Great
that one,
hospitals.
whoever has purchased Pitos
And
Coquito,
now
you
I
already know.
recovered.
You can put a comment. Have you ever bought Pitos Coquito from me? Leave a comment. Let the people know how.
99% of people
Be honest,
recover.
how good it
We
is.
have to recover. We can't.
Yo, I ain't
close
gonna lie,
up our
already gave me a
nation.
little-
We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You
I
have
respond to that.
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says we're with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning.
People will learn to die with it.
Going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their.
This is the part where they tell him, reach out to the people.
Learning to live with it.
Get your commercial going.
We're dying with it because he has never said. He said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now. What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that he came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part.
Ow!
But they didn't
He
keep it
just
from
went like
coming out
this
to
to
the
you.
world,
Woo,
including
woo, woo, woo,
Europe
woo.
and ourselves.
Now you can't. Now you're feeling it.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather.
No.
Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that. A lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in
Dios
control.
mío, they're driving me
We're
to
about to
drink
lose
coquito.
200,000 more people.
Don't interrupt, Trump.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said,
It's the truth, though.
this is a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did.
You interrupted. Oh, Biden interrupted.
You're
You're not supposed to.
It wasn't about
Interrupt.
closing the
Oh, I'm
border
just
to
saying.
Chinese.
Yo, this is
coming to the
making me
United
feel a
I
little.
want to talk
a
about
little
both of your different strategies to handle
He
it.
thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's.
That's obvious.
Okay.
Is that? Do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. So let's talk about your different strategies for dealing with this. Mr. Vice President,
That's
you
what I'm talking
suggested you
about.
would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse
wanna hear stuff like
outweighs the
that.
risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused
No,
the
no, no,
virus-
no, no,
that caused
no,
the
no,
country
no.
to have to
It's
shut
new.
down
Moving
and
ahead.
apart. Why
Moving
businesses
forward.
are closed,
Ay, Dios
schools are
mío,
closed,
toma.
why so many people
Bebe un
have lost
poquito.
their
Bebe
living,
un
and why
poquito de
they're concerned.
coquito.
Those other concerns are real. That's why
It's not to
he
blame
should have
each
been, instead
other.
of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating
Oh,
with
my
Nancy
God.
Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing.
Look,
for
I'm gonna leave that
billions of
mask
dollars
on.
to
You
make
see?
sure people
You got a
have the
mask.
capacity.
That's a
And
mask.
you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm
Thank
not
you.
shutting down today, but there are.
Thank you. Get to the point,
The
Papa.
standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a
Yo me estoy
community
fogonando
that's
aquí.
above a certain level, everybody says slow up. more social distancing. Do not open
Everybody.
bars and do not open gymnasiums. Do not open
Everybody
until you get this under
says.
control, under more
How
control.
about what you say,
But
buddy?
when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. Okay. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. There's a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often, the cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down, he'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open. But when they need resources to open, you need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing.
I'm wondering, no, let's go keep those
If you
banking.
have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another.
Yes.
You need to be in a position where you can take.
You guys know this is
rapidly
really
and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this, and that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Come on.
I tested 3 times, been negative 3 times. You feel me? Porque yo, mira, this is much relaxing.
Talk about plexiglass. These are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all
I still want to know.
They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump,
when you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed. And they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you
I like this moderator.
Fauci, the
She's
nation's
good.
best-known infectious disease
She's
expert,
good.
quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know,
He did say,
this
do not
is
drink
not going to be a
coquito.
problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem.
No, listen.
We are not going to have a
Coquito
problem
está
at all.
bueno.
When Joe says
It's
that,
been, what,
I
15?
said, Anthony Fauci
15,
said, and
20
others, and many
seconds
others,
that I drank all that,
nobody knew.
and I really got a buzz.
Nobody knew what this thing was.
I'm
Nobody
ready.
knew
I'm
where
ready
it
to
was
vote for
coming
both
from,
of them
what it
right
was.
now.
We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now
Yo.
wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air.
How do you know
and
that?
It was much worse.
How do you know what the president is doing, but you don't know what Hunter Biden is doing, your son?
One of your colleagues.
I hope they bring up your son.
That in fact
because
he knew how dangerous
he
it
knows.
was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic.
Oh, yeah, he
didn't
did
want
say that the other
Americans
time.
don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
The
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made. You know, I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national
Joe,
security.
47 years,
and I do
Papa.
want to start
Let's keep it
with
real,
the security
bro.
of our
Everybody
elections
just
and some
hates
breaking
Trump. That's
news
why they
from
voted for
overnight.
you.
Just
They're not
last
giving
night,
him a
top
chance.
intelligence officials
I don't want to pay
confirmed again that both
62%.
Russia and Iran are
62.
working to influence this election. Both
Yo,
countries
this-
have obtained
I don't
US
even know what the hell I'm saying
registration
anymore.
information, these
I don't want to
officials
pay
say, and Iran
62%
sent intimidating messages to Florida
taxes
voters.
on my
This
annual
question is to
salary.
you, Mr. Vice
Puñeta.
President. What would you do to put an end to this?
That's
threat
all I'm
with 2
talking
minutes
about.
uninterrupted?
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that
I
any
pledge.
country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price.
Yeah, they are.
will
They're paying
pay
you.
the
Look,
price.
he's already saying they
It's
paid
been
the price.
overwhelmingly clear.
Que le
This
están
election,
dando
I'm not
chavo.
even get into the last one. This election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's talking to him a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word.
He's worried with the
And
coronavirus.
I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign
but the point is
countries
this
trying to
so
interfere in the outcome of our election. He's
reading. Look at his eyes. He's reading from the teleprompter.
What is happening with
Look
his
at him.
buddy? Well, I won't. I will. His buddy Rudy Giuliani. He's being used as a Russian pawn.
Yeah.
He's being fed
Everything is
information
Russian.
that is Russian.
That sounds like Hillary's writing his
And then what
paperwork.
happens? Nothing
She's
happens.
writing the
And then you
dialogue.
find
Everything.
out that
Blame it on Russia.
Everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin.
Putin when he's actually.
Does he even make sense when he's talking? I know
he's
he's saying stuff, but it's kind of like it's not really anything that I want to hear. Just blasting this one. He's talking just crap.
Why is it that
I want to know strategies, bro.
Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
So how are they going to pay the price?
Trump,
I would be like, how are they going to pay the price?
Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of
You
Moscow.
just said they will pay the price.
Moscow's
You
wife.
said it to yourself.
You got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million. And, someday you're going to have to explain, why did you get 3.5? I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that. And through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said, the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose, because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of
He's a businessman, people.
You know, got the NATO
I don't want to pay
countries to put up an extra
62%.
$130
That's what I'm
billion,
saying.
going to $420 billion a year.
That
That's to
loco.
guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond.
Okay, straight here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one.
Ever. He blinked.
This is a president. I have released all of my tax returns.
Oh, here we go with the
22
taxes.
years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return.
Okay, but you got 47
have
years.
not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling?
See, that's called
foreign
deflect.
countries are paying
Deflect.
you a lot.
Deflect.
Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
Yo, Trump is behaving.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your account
Nobody told you that. Excuse me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that
they're gonna find out.
Give 10%.
They're gonna find out.
Man. You're the big man, I think.
He got almost impeached. They were digging. We're gonna dig on you, Papa. We're gonna find out this is true. It's
Joe,
only
what's
fair,
it all
people.
about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions.
It's only fair. For those that are voting for Biden, it's only fair. Let's just see if it's not true or true. We can't just say we're not gonna look into it. We gotta look into it. Just the way they looked into it and stuff.
Worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because there have a lot of people in there deep down in the IRS. They treat me horribly.
I got a buzz. I can't even. I'm not taking that
until I decide to run for president. I get treated
Hey,
very
look how much I
badly by
drank
the
of it.
IRS, very unfairly.
And I got a buzz.
We had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly.
Let's do it
quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Let's do it.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us.
What?
Just show us. Stop playing around.
So what?
You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on, folks.
So
President Trump, and then I want to get two questions for both of you.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million.
Your turn, Papa. They're gonna go after you. It's only right.
I could find plenty wrong.
There you go.
The kind of
I
things
said
that
it.
you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and
baby. Let's go. I like her.
In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal.
Okay, here's the deal.
With regard to
He
Ukraine,
does a lot of deals we can see.
we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company.
No, don't worry. Don't make no reactions, bro. They're gonna they got him.
Single solitary person when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing. Number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe.
He's not this guy. He's the president.
To say something
Joe,
about me, which they would not.
You used to be.
Did not do.
Used to be.
Never, ever happened.
Respeta, papá, ser presidente, papá.
In terms of this thing about what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy who made money from China is this guy. He's the only one.
This guy.
This guy.
Yo, dude, he's not this guy.
Let me ask my
Look,
question
President
to you.
Trump. Did you hear what you said? President
His
Trump.
son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service.
Facts. This is facts.
And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not
50 G's a month.
the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen
I
to
know
this.
50 G.
183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no.
Wait.
I'm going to let the Vice President
That's
respond to that quickly, and then I
100%.
know
Why
I'll
she
answer the question.
cut him off?
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you
Yo, why she cut him off? I don't like. Yo, cabrona.
You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week.
Why she didn't go after Joe
reference
Biden?
does
Why she say, yo, is
indicate
that you about
company
your
has a
son?
bank account in China. So how can
See,
voters
this
know
is
that you
bullshit,
don't have
bro.
any foreign
Yo, people, y'all better go get out there and vote. I do not want to pay 62% of my annual salary to taxes.
The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013.
caliente.
That's what it was. It was open to do. It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China, like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money every
President Trump,
place he
thank you. We
goes.
do need
Not
to
true.
move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
Yes, please. Not the. Here's the deal. For instance, the cops, we're gonna buy the bullets. For instance, I'm gonna buy a pack of gum and chew it. That's just for
We
instance.
are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all. Number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he doing?
I still don't
He
understand what he
embraces
says.
guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger.
Still did not answer the question. This is gonna be the guy you vote for.
25% of the world.
Now somebody's gonna come in and go, yo, you gotta do this, that, do that. Think about it.
Saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them.
You're gonna be hungry, skinny.
That's the way I
People only
and that's what we
tengo hambre. I'm hungry. I'm dying. But as long as Trump didn't win.
Okay. Very quickly, and then we're going to move
Walk
on to
out
North
with
Korea.
$1.5 billion from China to manage after spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two. Number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what
No, but
specifically are you going to do?
Oh,
What
of course, you
specifically
see, they don't
are
let
you
them
going
talk.
to do to make China pay? You said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave $28 billion.
New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers'
China.
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah, you
China.
know the taxpayer is. It's called China. China paid
There you go,
$28
Papa.
billion, and you know
There
what
you
they
go.
did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them
Bro, you talking to
25%
him, Papa, come on, let's be honest. Y'all can hate him. Odialo, pero el tipo sabe.
And now we have a steal.
Okay, Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about. There's a reason why
Yeah.
he's bringing up all this malarkey.
Malarkey,
There's a
okay.
reason for it.
Because
He
you're
doesn't want
corrupt.
to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And
Oh.
your family's hurting badly.
Oh.
If you're making less than
Oh,
if you're
sounds
a
like
middle-class family,
what
you're
you selling me
getting
now?
hurt badly right now.
Pampers?
You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires for the ball because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back
Yo,
to
is this a commercial?
community
It has
college?
nothing to do
They're
with
the
nothing.
decisions you're making. In the middle class families like I grew up
Look,
in Scranton.
He's reading. Look at his
They're in
eyes.
trouble.
He's reading.
We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he
Tell
wants
him to look away. He's not looking away.
I want to talk about North Korea. I do want to turn to 10 seconds, Mr. President.
It's a
10 seconds.
typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks the family. Around
See,
the
I
table.
said the same
Just a
thing.
typical politician when I say
I
that.
didn't I say the same thing? This is why I'm doing this live. I be catching the
Get off the
bullshit.
subject of China. Let's talk around sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on.
Didn't I say that?
We're going to talk about North Korea.
Didn't I just say that,
President
people,
Trump met with
yo,
North Korean leader Kim
if you
Jong-un
drink Pico's
3
Coquito,
times.
it might
You've
make
talked
you
about
just
your
as smart as
beautiful
Pito.
letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war.
Yo, this girl, I like that you're strict and you're not being fair, mamita. Be fair. I like that you tough. I respect that. Puerto Rican women, I'm used to that. They tough. They ain't no joke. They smart as hell.
Because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with
All right?
Obama. We sat in the White House.
So I'm used
Right
to
at the beginning,
women
had a
being
great
smart and
conversation,
tough.
supposed to be 15
My mother's the
minutes, and it was
smartest
well
and the
over an hour.
toughest woman
He said
ever.
the biggest problem we have with
Ever.
is North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war. And he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people, and so millions of people would be dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have a
that's
war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's the I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do
From the basement. You said this from the basement, right?
military maneuvers with South Korea?
From the basement.
I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get that the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
They tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I gotta give him a chance to respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it. And it's okay. You know what? North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship.
Yeah, that's
you know,
not peace.
people don't understand. Having a good relationship
Trump,
with
we have to
leaders
move
of other
on because
countries
we have a
is
lot of
a good
countries.
thing.
Stop, Trump, stop. Stop.
Not
Your
to
response.
extent we had
Stop.
a good relationship with Hitler before he in fact
Oh
invaded
my God, where did that come from?
the rest of Europe. Come on. You
Where-
know, the reason he would not meet
where
with
did
President
that come
Obama is
from?
because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you. We're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
Yeah, talk
All right,
more
didn't
move
have
on.
about
Move on to
but who got
Tony
1 point something billion dollars?
President Trump,
Déjala
we
mierda.
need to
Left
fund-
me a mess. North Korea was a mess.
We
And in
need to
fact,
move
if
on
you
to-
remember,
Trump, move on.
there was a
Move
very
on.
dangerous
Move
period
on.
in the first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a very
Trump,
they
okay.
left us
Yeah.
a mess, and Obama would
My
be,
dude.
I think, the first to say it was the single biggest
No, yeah,
problem he
take a-
thought that our
take a
country.
freaking
Okay,
drink.
let's move on to American
drink.
families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is healthcare, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and healthcare is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away?
Give them
in
some
2
pre-
minutes uninterrupted?
Give him
First
some
of all, we've
pre,
already done something that
right?
nobody
Give
thought
him
was
some
possible.
pre-existing.
Through the legislature,
Um,
I terminated the individual mandate.
You know what I'm saying?
That is the worst part of Obamacare.
Just let
as
them
we call
start
it.
signing
The
up now.
individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision: run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down, everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better healthcare, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful healthcare. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House. Okay, you'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better healthcare, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families.
I'm just saying, kid.
Which will basically socialize medicine. He won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on healthcare.
Yo, this thing got me bucking. Oh my God, this is good. Merry Christmas.
Yes, this is
Everybody, Merry Christmas.
Building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option. It's going to become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that
it's going to become Biden care. Yo, that was funny. Yo, Trump, he got you. That's funny. And they're going to go to all the doctors in the basement, like Urbano. I know I just said the name. Everybody's like, oh, Urbano.
We're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now, by allowing the Medicare.
They just should call it I don't care.
Drug prices,
right?
With the
don't call it Biden care. Thirdly, call it I don't care.
That I want to eliminate private insurance. The reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance.
Did you guys understand what he said? Because I'm just like,
we're going to make sure we're in a situation.
I'm thinking I should get some ice. Esto está buenísimo. Está mejor que el debate.
Zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time.
Go to the bathroom already. Cada vez que habla se ve constipated. I know a lot of people gonna hate what I'm saying, but yo, my perspective. You get on YouTube and give your perspective. Don't be critics. Go give your perspectives. Because this is not easy to do.
Because of this terrible handling of the COVID virus and economic spillover, 10 million people have
I still don't know what he's saying. You know what he's saying?
And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people
just said he's not going to do that.
Have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
I say it's ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president
and makes it a socialist plan. You got AOC and them behind you, Bernie behind you. I mean, it is what it is. Let's call it a duck. If it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a freaking elephant, right? With this guy.
This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried?
Here we go with the Amway commercial. How many of you home?
Because you've lost your home.
Joe, look at the camera, Joe, and speak to the people, Joe. Speak to the voters. Look at him. Look, he's reading it. Look.
President Trump,
he was there for 47 years.
47 años, para que no entienda. Estaba ahí como vicepresidente. No es como era 25 años atrás. 3/4 de año. Era un tiempo, no, menos de 40 años. Él no hizo nada. Mira, él no hizo nada de la medicina socialista.
she is more
Ella.
liberal than
Más
Bernie
liberal
Sanders and wants it even
de
more.
Bernie
Bernie
Sanders.
Sanders wants it. The
Bernie Sanders lo
Democrats want it.
quiere.
You're
Los
going to have
demócratas lo quieren
socialized
también.
medicine.
Yo
Just
estoy
like
hablando
you went
español
up with
porque yo estoy
fracking.
bebiendo pitos
We're
coquitos, me está haciendo
going to
inteligente.
stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking.
No
Then he
estamos
goes to
fracking, estamos
Pennsylvania
fracking,
after he gets
estamos
a
fracking.
nomination
Mira,
where he got
yo no
the
sé how to
right
say
to get it.
fracking.
And he goes to
Fracking, I'm
Pennsylvania.
fracking.
And he says,
Look, he
"Oh,
laughed.
we're gonna
I'm
have fracking."
fracking.
And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this.
Yes.
I have to say.
By the way,
But somebody should ask the question.
you can
He,
ask.
he goes for a year. There will be
We have
no fracking, there
we
will
do
be
have
no
a number of topics
No,
we're
no,
going
but
to get
that's a
to.
big- that's a big question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get
It's
to
the same thing with socialized
I have
medicine.
to
Vice
respond.
President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care. Period. Period.
That's
And
anybody
the
can say
Biden care
that.
proposal will
Biden
provide
care
affordable
equals
health care.
I don't
Lower
care.
premiums. What we're going to do
I'm
is
gonna make
cost
that
some money.
shirt.
It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums.
Biden
deal
care.
with unexpected-
Yo,
unexpected
that's
epidemic,
hilarious.
and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody
Because
on
he's
healthcare.
fighting a
Not thing.
pandemic.
When he
Very quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine. And when he and healthcare, when he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroying, and destroying your Social Security. And this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay, let's
It was
let's put Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's a
Biden
very
respond.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare.
He knows his
this is the
name.
guy
That's
that
impressive.
the actuary at Medicare said,
Joe
if in
Biden.
fact, at Social Security,
Biden
if in fact he
care.
continues to
That's funny.
withhold his plan to
If Trump was to
withhold
say, yo,
tax
Trump
on Social
care,
Security,
everybody just,
Social Security will be
they'll
bankrupt
freaking, they won't show up to work tomorrow.
2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So no, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare, come on.
He tried to get rid of. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago. Years ago, go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move on. I'm going to move on. Mr. President, I have to move on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going
will
to have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's
I guess
move on to the
analysts
next
say that.
question
No matter-
very quickly.
Look,
I believe
the
that.
idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton,
But
Claremont,
why,
people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more. $700 billion more because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on.
401ks are through the roof.
We're going to
The
move on.
stock are through the
Trump,
roof.
Trump, let him
He
move
doesn't
on.
come from Scranton.
La odiosa.
Like one of the,
Que no le dan becho a esa cabrona.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next
Let him
question.
move on.
Let me move on to my next question.
Let him move on.
As of tonight, more than
Yo,
12
guys, if I
million
got a
people
little
are
crazy,
out of work.
it's not
As
me
of tonight,
talking, it's a
8 million more
coquito.
Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington.
If I say anything like
over a
bicho,
relief
I'm gonna
bill.
fly.
Mr. President, why
My
haven't
dad's
you been able to
Cuban.
get them the help they
Bichos
need
are flies.
here?
Because Nancy
Ella
Pelosi
necesita
doesn't
un
want to
fly.
approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do,
A
but I
mosquito.
still have to get her. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President.
We made a
Biden,
deal
because
for
let
Republicans.
me ask Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Oh, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act
Oh,
all the way back
You
in the beginning of
flipping?
the
He
summer.
flipping.
This is like it's not new.
It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budget. The states have to balance their budget, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat.
Oh, what's up, Galito?
Democrats,
My
cities
nephew's
and
watching.
states. It
What's
was a way
up,
of getting
kid?
a lot of money, billions and billions of
My
dollars
nephew?
to these kids.
What's up?
It was also
Want to
way
give
of
a
getting
shout out
lot
to
of
my
money
nephew, Carlos
from our
Jr.
people's pockets to
Carlos
people that
Jimenez
come into our
Jr.
country
I love you,
illegally.
Papi. He's in
We're
Penn
gonna take
State,
care of everything for them.
doing his thing
And
in
what that
Penn
does,
State.
I'd love to do that.
I love
I'd
you,
to help
Papi.
them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
By the way,
I want
if I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American.
You already
United
said
States.
it. You said that
Folks,
already. That's played
every
out.
single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start
Oh
laying
my
off.
God,
whether
it
they're red
feels
or
like a
blue.
worn-out commercial.
Cops,
This is not
firefighters, first
organic.
responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government.
Can the question be is how many tax? How much you going to charge taxes? Can that be a
I want to
question?
talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are
yeah, am I
talking a
on
lot
point?
about struggling small businesses
Am I on
and
point?
business owners
Am
these
I on
days.
point? That's
Do
what I'm
you
trying to
think this
say.
is the right time
Yo soy
to
tipo
ask them to raise
inteligente.
the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum
I
wage.
do, because I think one of the things
And
we're gonna
taxes,
have
get
to
into
do
the
is we're gonna
taxes,
have to
cabrón,
bail them
CBD.
out too. We should be bailing them out now.
Bailing
Those small
out? People
businesses,
gotta go to
you got
school,
1 in
man.
6 of them going under. They're not going to be able
Yo,
to make
dude,
it back.
I
They
freaking,
passed
I'm from the
a package that
projects in
allows us to
Brooklyn.
be able to go
I had to go
PPP.
work.
Money
I had to
supposed go
take
help them do
loans.
everything from
People could do the
organize
same right
how
now
they can
too, bro.
deal with their
Not
business and
bailouts.
open safely.
Nobody bailed me out.
Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in.
Dude, you can't hire more teachers. People don't want to be teachers. You're talking out your nalgas. The turnaround on teachers is 2 years now. Teachers don't want to teach. People, these young kids don't want to teach. They want the vacations, but they don't want to teach.
By raising the minimum
I
wage.
know, kid. I could talk about
I
it.
think it should be a state
Damn, I
option.
need another sip of this.
Alabama
This is
is
gonna be
different than
nuts.
New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every
Yo,
state is
Pitos
different.
Coquitos
It should be a
delicious.
state option.
Whoever's bought, come on, keep
It's
it real.
very important. We have to
Put it on
help
the
our
link
small
if you ever bought
businesses.
Pitos
How are
Coquitos.
you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their
You
employees.
said
Not
that recently
true,
you would
by the way.
consider raising
Not
the
true.
federal
Oh,
minimum
because you
wage
said
to
it's not true.
$15 an hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an hour. Is
really
that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really like,
administration?
in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would
Okay,
be
President Trump, thank you. Quick
No.
response.
He's trying to make a point, but you want to be a cabrona.
One job.
I wanted to hear that out.
Poverty.
$15 an hour
$6,
in
$7
other
bucks
down
an
south
hour.
places
These
is
first
good.
responders
In
will
New York, it
fight
ain't
for
cutting
as
it.
they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They
Look at this one. Every time he
deserve
talks, he
a
looks like he
minimum
got to take a
wage
shit.
of
He's
$15.
constipated
Anything below that
with his
puts you
freaking
below the
lizard
poverty
thing,
level.
like my
And
shit.
There is no
Look.
evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business.
Oh, yes,
That
there is. They
simply
run out. They
not
go out of
true.
We're going to
business.
talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now.
Not for your
gentlemen.
son. He makes
And
freaking
we're gonna talk about
$189,000 a
families
year.
in this context. Mr.
I mean, a
President, your
month
administration
from his job. He don't get
separated children
minimum
from their
wage.
parents at the border.
Yo,
At least
guys,
4,000 kids.
I'm
You've
totally out
since
of control.
reversed your zero
What's
tolerance
this?
policy, but the
So
United
if I say
States
anything
can't locate
that offended
the parents
anybody,
of more than
I don't give a
500
shit.
children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're
I'm trying to
over
hold in my
400
stomach.
miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in that they have to
when I
come
try to
in
hold in my
legally, and they
stomach.
come in through.
How about you guys? You guys know the
With
game.
their families,
You guys
They built
over
cages.
like
You know,
my
they used
age
to
and
say,
over.
"I built
Y'all know the
cages."
deal.
And
Try to
then
hold
they
in your
had a
stomach
picture
right
in a
now.
certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, "Look at these cages. President Trump built them." And then it was determined they were built in
By
2014.
by
That was
Obama.
him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes.
She
and through
knows
gangs.
it. She's supposed to be a journalist. She's supposed to be a reporter. She knows that. They all know that. But these
kids
people all
came
bought.
with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. They real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot. It's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their
Joe,
parents.
go to Ellis Island and learn the
Makes us a
history of New York, you
laughingstock and
dumb wit.
violates every notion of who
I
we
mean,
are as a
Mr.
nation.
Vice President.
Let me ask you a follow-up.
Done
They
with.
did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
They
to
did
that?
it. We changed.
did not
They built the
separate
cages. Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened?
I want her to come back and ask them who built the cages. If she doesn't do that, she's not being fair. I'm gonna retract everything I said about
her.
her.
Those parents and those kids are alone.
But that happened in Ellis Island. Learn your history, Joe.
It's criminal.
Ellis Island used to separate.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say
it.
this. They went
10
down. We
seconds,
brought
and then I need
reporters, everything. They are so well
Ellis
taken care of.
Island.
They're in facilities that were so
The
clean.
history of immigration. If you cough,
One question.
they separated
Who
you
built
from
the
your family.
cages?
If you came with a limp,
Who
they
built the
separated you
cages?
from the
Let me ask you
family,
about your immigration
Joe.
policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama
Biden
administration
care.
did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family
Epa,
detentions
that's
at
what
the
I'm
border
talking about.
before changing
She's-
course. So why
she's
should voters
fair.
support an
I like
immigration
her.
protocol now?
See, I be
Because
talking
we
crap
made a
too.
mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the
Yeah,
fact is, I
aye.
made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA
Ooh, I
kids,
think he just
they're
lost
going to be
the
immediately
independent-
certified again to be able
the
to stay in
independent
this
people
country and
that
put on a path to
they keeping it
citizenship. The
like they don't
idea
want to
that
express that.
they are
He
being
just said
sent home
11
by
million
this guy
people
and they
more
want to do that, is
undocumented.
they go into a
He
country
just
they've
lost a
never
lot of
seen before.
votes
I can
because
imagine
people are
they're
funny.
5
You know,
years
people
old,
are funny.
parents are
They
taking
don't want to
across
be straight
the
up.
Rio
but
Grande
that's-
River,
he just-
and it's
To
illegal.
try to
And you say, "Oh, no, Mom,
talk
leave me
crap
here.
that's
I'm not gonna
fake,
go with you."
he just hung
They've
himself.
been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over
Yo, how come he hasn't
20,000
lost that
were
pen
first
yet? I'll be losing
responders
pens on the
out there
regular.
taking care
All
of people
right,
during
put
this
it down and
crisis.
it'll be disappearing on
We
me.
owe
And this
them.
guy still got his
We
pen.
owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he had
react.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing
He does
except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President Biden, your response.
The catch and release. You know what he's talking about there?
Yeah,
If in fact you had a
1
family
foot,
came
1 foot.
across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that's anybody
That they showed up.
seeking
That's a lie.
asylum
You're a liar.
has to do it in another
That's what I
country.
did. I want to see
That's never
paperwork on
happened
that.
before in America.
Yeah, I
That's
can't
never
drink
happened
this no
before in
more,
America.
bro.
You come to the United States and you make your
I feel
case
like-
that I
I'm gone.
seek
I'll
asylum
be
based
making
on the
fun of me,
following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response.
So
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll
It
move on.
just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws.
There you go.
Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come
Yeah,
in,
they don't show up
a
to
very
court.
bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back.
They don't come to
Less
court.
than 1% of the people
That's what I'm
come
saying.
back. We
See,
have to
yo,
send
guys, give me
police out
credit, kid. I be
and
knowing my
Border Patrol
shit,
out
bro.
to find
You don't know
them.
what he's
We
talking
would say,
about, bro.
come back in
They don't
2
come
years,
back.
3 years.
Come on,
We're going
man.
to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case.
They don't
When
come
you
back.
say they come back, they don't come back,
They
Joe.
don't.
They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay, President Trump, let's give Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You don't
next
know the
section.
law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
They don't come
Let's
back.
move
It's a
We don't
known
have to worry
fact.
about it. They terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it.
Let's
that's
move
right.
on to the next
Yeah,
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
That's not. Listen, that's
Let's talk about our
You
next
take a
section,
risk,
which is
Joe.
race in America. And I
right.
wanna
Just
talk
like right
about
now, you
the way
got kids.
Black
Their
and
parents
brown
are not sending them to
Americans
school
experience race
because
in
they're
this
saying I'm
country.
not risking my
Part of
child
that
to get
experience
sick.
is
So
something called
if you're gonna
the
say
talk.
I'm gonna go
It
do
happens
this
regardless
illegal
of
stuff
class
and I'm gonna take a
income.
risk with my child,
Parents who feel they have
there's
no
consequences,
choice but to
Joe.
prepare their children for the
Come on, let's
chance
be
that
real,
they
kid.
could be targeted
This ain't politics
including
with
by
me.
the police for no reason other than the color of their
Te
skin.
coquito, man.
Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes,
I'm
I
only
want
not
you
gonna
to
drink it
speak
'cause it's
directly
hot
to
now.
these
I want it
families.
cold.
Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's
And your
she's
son is a what?
A lot about this. Has a great,
What is
she's
your
a
son
graduate
though?
from
Tell me
University
what
of
your son
Pennsylvania in
Hunter is.
social work.
What is Hunter?
And you
What is
know,
Hunter?
One of the reasons
Porque eso
why
todo
I
está
ended up
saliendo
working
ya.
on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American,
Ooh,
was to learn
okay.
more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie
Because
on
of a
when you
law,
go across the
that
street.
you helped make.
Making sure that you, in fact, if
Because
you
of a
get
law that
pulled
you
over,
helped make,
just
Joe
sit closer,
Biden.
hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is
The fact is
institutional
that you
racism in
wrote
America. And
those
we
laws.
have always
You helped.
said,
You signed your
we've
name
never
on
lived up
those
to it. We
laws,
hold these truths
Joe
to be self-evident.
Biden.
All men and women are created equal. But guess what?
Yo, guys, look up
We have never,
Joe
ever
Biden
lived
when
up
he
to
was
it. We've
younger,
always constantly
how he
been
called
moving the
my
needle further
American
and further
brothers
to inclusion, not exclusion.
predators,
This
and
is the
how
first
we
president
gotta
to
get
come
some,
along and say,
they.
"That's the
He
end
kept
of
saying
that.
they.
We're not going to do
Look
that
it up,
anymore."
Joe Biden
We have
on
to
YouTube.
provide
Look it up. It's still there.
economic
He's a young Joe
opportunity,
Biden
better
with black hair and
education,
bald.
better
I don't know how he's
healthcare,
old and
better
has
access to
hair.
schooling, better access to
He was young and
opportunity to
bald. I don't know how
borrow
he
money to
did when he
start
got hair.
businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a
They should have
shot.
let Joe
It's
Rogan
about
do this.
accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
I have no idea what he said.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994
Didn't I say
when
it?
he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators.
Guys,
And he said
come
that.
on.
He said it, super predators.
Yeah, look at it.
And they could never live that down. 1994.
Look at it.
Your crime bill, the super predators.
He was
Nobody
bald,
has done more for the black community.
and he was
than
part
Donald
of
Trump.
it.
And if you
I know my stuff, people.
with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture. And everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott.
President Trump is the one that did it.
South Carolina.
He's the one.
He
Look,
came in with this incredible
he's the one that
idea
wrote
for
it. I'm
opportunity
telling you,
zones.
just
It's
look
one
it
of the
up.
most
I know
successful
my stuff. I do
programs.
research.
People don't
I
talk
love
about it.
researching.
Tremendous
Yo soy un
investment
boricua
benefiting
de puro
biggest
cepa
beneficiary
huepa y
the
como
black and
Goya,
Hispanic
not like
communities.
AOC,
And they
la flaca
start
odiosa esta
provide
cabrona.
colleges and
I mean,
universities.
I'm sorry.
After
She's my
3
sister.
years
She's
of
por...
coming to the
Ay,
office,
ella me
I know
mama
some of those guys, they
poquito.
were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them
$4 billion
more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved it for every black colleges and universities.
Okay. And we're
$4
gonna
billion
talk about
he
your
gave.
records, but your response to that.
Why,
Mr.
when he said historic black colleges, they shut off the mic. Y'all saw
What
it.
he accused me of
I'm just saying.
The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail.
Oh yeah,
There's not
okay.
enough people in jail.
Now we
And
pay
go
that
on our website,
tit for
get the
tat.
quote, the date when he
Yeah,
said it.
and we could go to YouTube and see your bald ass when you was young, and you freaking call my people's super predator, and you kept saying they. We gotta divide ourselves from them. Talking all that crap.
None of them,
Yo,
none of
it's not
them
me, people.
were
I'm a
guilty
nice guy.
of what the crime.
It's really
of the
this,
crimes
and
they were
I could be funny.
And talk about
But
but
that's it.
he did
Wow.
in fact let 20 people. He commuted 20 people sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people sentences.
Yeah, we.
Over 1,000.
What are you,
The
French?
very law
We,
he's
we,
talking
we,
about
we,
is
I
the
didn't
law
care.
that, in
I don't
fact,
care.
initiated by Barack Obama.
Oh,
And
seguro.
secondly,
Obama,
situation
the
here
only
where
president that can't
we-
retire.
the
He bought a house in
federal
Washington,
system was
and
reduced
he's
by
still backing you up.
38,000 people
He
under
never
our
backed you up in the
administration.
beginning, but then he
And
backs you up
we
now.
should be doing
Yo no entiendo
this.
eso.
No minimum
I'm
mandatory
feeling,
in the law. That's why I'm offering
I'm
$20
feeling,
billion to
let me
states
see.
to change their state laws to
A
eliminate
Thomas
minimum
Jefferson
mandatories
move
and
here.
set up drug
If he
courts.
becomes
No one should be
president,
going to jail
he's gonna
because
probably
they have a
put
drug
Obama
problem.
either in
They
a
should be going to
Supreme Court or
rehabilitation,
Obama
not
to
jail.
be the
We
Secretary
should
of State.
fundamentally change
And if
the
you know your
system, and that's
history,
what I'm going to do.
Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States,
Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you?
who battled with John Adams, who was the second president of the United States. He chose John Adams to be his Secretary of State
We did.
because they like John Adams took Thomas Jefferson to write the draft of the Declaration of Independence because he knew Thomas Jefferson was a very, very talented writer. So when you know who's good, you work together. But I don't know what's happening now with these people. They can't work together for us. So this is when
I hope he does look at me.
this guy's not a politician. You know who he
You
is.
know who I am.
And this guy is a look. I'm just
You
saying
know
that.
his character.
Wow.
You know my
Yo, I'm on point, right?
You know our reputations for honor and telling this.
47 years you're gonna go with that. You lost.
I'm anxious
3 years
to see
did
this
a lot.
take place.
47
I
years.
am- The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask
You
you,
look like-
please respond to this.
Stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq.
I said it, yo, I'm on point. I'm glad I recorded this. Except for the parts that I get very aggressive. And it's not because of this, not because of them. They both.
Corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump,
Nobody.
we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President
And I
Trump,
have to respond to that.
Please.
Because look,
very
there
quick.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
Oh, of
They have
course.
said that
This whole Russian thing. He got that from the book of Hillary.
CIA. Both parties say what he said.
Remember,
is a bunch of
if you
garbage.
lose, don't consent.
Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the
Giuliani.
laptop is now another Russia?
Yes. Didn't I just say that? Book of Hillary, didn't I just say that? Respétame, yo sé.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to
Okay?
be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
I told you.
We're going to
Didn't
continue
I
on the
say
issue
it?
of race. Mr. President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that Black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans?
He didn't
who
say
think
that.
kind of language from a
He didn't say
president
that.
is contributing to
He did
a
not
climate
say
of
that.
hate
You see
and
how you
racial
put
strife?
words in his
That
mouth?
was the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter. They were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police.
Kill the
Pigs,
police.
Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them
Yep.
like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people. I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know. I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunities.
That's it. Be honest. People want to say. People are going to say what they're going to say.
I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything.
That's it. Just leave it like that.
It makes me sad. Because I am.
Leave it like that.
I am the least.
Leave it like that. With all due respect, President. Leave it like that. You don't have to talk no more.
The audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden,
Leave
let
it
me
there.
ask you
You don't gotta
very
explain
quickly,
everything.
and then I have a follow-up question
Just
for
be
you.
like, yo, I don't know why
Abraham
people
Lincoln
are going
was
to feel
one of
that
the
way.
most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board.
And you
He
don't
said
what,
stuff
Joe?
about the poor boys.
Oh, you got Biden
Last
care.
time we were on stage here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on.
He didn't say
This
that. He
guy
said
is a
stand
dog and soul
down,
about as big
stand
as a
by,
football.
stand by,
President
stand
Trump, I'm
down.
going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a follow-up.
You made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did
Abraham
that-
Lincoln.
Where did that? No.
You said
I said not since Abraham Lincoln
Yeah.
has anyone
Duh.
done what I've done for the black community.
And
I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has
Yo, he looked
anybody
like a
done
lizard,
what I've
bro.
done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
oh God.
tens of thousands of black
Yeah, but
men
can the moderator just say,
in jail.
Mr.
All right,
Biden?
You know what?
Let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it,
President
because if you look at what's
Biden.
happening with
Yeah,
the
ask
voting
him that.
bill,
Did you?
Let me
they
ask Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about.
very, very badly.
Did
Just
you-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts
Thank
of drugs
you.
in their
Didn't I say
possession.
it,
Their
kid?
sons, their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the sense of COVID.
That's a mistake.
That's why I've been
Wow.
arguing that, in fact, we should not
So if you wasn't
send
running for
people
president,
to
nobody
jail
would have knew it was a
for
mistake.
a pure
Yo,
drug
people, this
offense.
is the guy you want
They
to
should
vote
go
for.
into treatment across
It was
the
a
board.
mistake. That's
what we
not a
should
mistake.
spend
There's
money.
people
That's
that are
why
locked up right now
drug
because of
courts
you.
are funded
That's
by
not a
Republican
mistake, dude.
friends. We should
You,
not be going to jail
and I don't like
for
to
a
use the
drug
word,
alcohol problem.
that's being a
We should go
racist.
into Treatment. That's what
I
we're trying to do.
apologize.
That's what I'm going
Yo,
to
man,
get
come
done,
on, people,
because
man.
that make
Don't.
America
I
go
understand you
back.
hate
Now
this guy.
see
I
that
understand you
it
hate the
was a
president of the United
mistake
States.
to pass
But
those
this
laws
guy,
we
bro,
made
he's got
drugs.
so many
They were not in the
things that he's done
Why
against
didn't he get it
us.
done? See, it's all talk,
See?
no
This is what I'm
action with these
saying.
Politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become
Yeah,
president.
to get it
You were
done.
vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader.
When would you
For 8
sorry for
years.
that?
Why didn't you get it done?
Thank
8
you.
years to get
Same.
it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Talking crap, bro.
38,000 prisoners left from
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison.
Yeah, but you locked up $2 billion.
There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that
Wait,
put in
wait,
the
give me
legislation
names.
saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments. And
Yo,
what
dude,
they're
he's
doing,
a polished
how they're
up
conducting
politician.
themselves.
All he's doing right now is politics.
We began the
Talk,
process.
talk.
We
He's not
began the process.
nothing.
We lost an
Look
election.
at his style.
That's
Nothing
why
is
I'm
genuine.
running
Nothing
to
is
win back the
organic.
election and change his terrible
Look at this.
policy.
Nothing is
Because
organic. And I bet you he still has the pen.
Why didn't you do
Right.
it in the 8 years?
That's
a
it.
short time ago?
Talking crap. Why didn't you just do it?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this.
No, guys.
Tens of
Again, this got me
thousands of
worked up.
mostly
Feeling the
black
buzz,
young
but it's
men
coming
in
down
prison.
now.
Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done?
Right.
You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're
Because
all
what?
talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
we had a Republican Congress.
What?
That's the answer.
Well,
Okay.
you're going to talk them into it, Joe. So
All right.
you're going
Right.
to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I
which
did with
is
criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I
Okay.
had to talk Democrats into it.
Look, he got his pen. You know
We're
what I'm saying? He got his pen. I be losing pens on the regular, like 5 pens a day. I be like this. Kids be going, Mr. Reyes, I put it down. Oh, snap. Where's my pen? Where's my pen?
Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of
Yo,
you,
how long is
how
this,
would you
man?
combat climate change
I
and
can't stay
support
up this
job
long.
growth
I gotta
at
go
the
to
same
sleep.
time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emissions numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, the global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate,
Come
to clean
on,
up,
Joe,
to
man, you
limit
gotta.
the
You have no
emissions.
class. I'm
Will put us
sorry,
in a
bro.
position
I'm
where
not
we're
one to
gonna have
judge
real
nobody,
trouble.
but at least
Here's
be
where
like
we have
Mr.
a great
President, Mr.
opportunity.
President,
I
Mr.
was able to
President.
get both
The independent
the
voters that
environmental
hear you say
organizations
this
as
guy,
well as
this guy,
labor
this guy, they're not gonna
worried
vote
about
for you,
jobs
bro.
to
Because that means you
support
don't.
my
How you
climate
talking
plan.
about us? If he's the
Because what it
president
does, it
and
will
you
create
disrespect him,
millions of new
the people gonna be
good-paying
like, yo,
jobs.
how
We're
is he gonna talk
invest
about
in,
us? They're
for
gonna be like,
example,
those people.
500,000,
Fuck them.
50,000
Those people.
charging
Fuck
stations
them.
on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future.
Oh
In the
my God,
meantime,
this guy.
China
What
is
future,
doing
bro?
that.
To
We're
get
gonna
him
be in a position where we're going to
146
see
years
to it
old, yeah.
that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes.
Look,
and
he's reading.
retrofit them
He's
so they
reading.
don't leak as much energy, saving.
Oh,
hundreds
you
of
heard the
millions of
page
barrels
turn?
of oil in
Those
the
are set up
process,
questions, bro,
and
right there.
creating significant
Sorry,
jobs.
busted
And by the
them.
way, the
Just
whole
heard that
idea
Borinquen.
of what this is all going to do is going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan,
Wall Street.
my plan will in fact create 18.6 million
Oh,
jobs.
Wall
7
Street.
million more
Didn't
than his.
President
This is Wall
Obama
Street.
said that
And I'll create
Wall
$1 trillion
Street,
more in
he just
economic
didn't
growth
even know he gave
than his
himself up.
proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
Wall
President
Street.
Trump,
Committee came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. That his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environment plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3.
Ooh,
They know nothing about
Ooh.
the climate.
ooh.
I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate.
Oh,
And they're
yo,
all hopping
AOC.
through hoops for AOC +3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. They want to spend.
He's a developer. He knows his stuff. Y'all got to give him that.
It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
Many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions.
Not more. What
let's hear from
time?
the
I want to
Vice
go to
President.
sleep.
I have a number more
I
questions.
don't know where he comes from.
Oh,
I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
we don't know where it's come
$100
from.
trillion. Give me a break. This plan is planned and endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies.
So you know
The future
more
lies
about
us
labor
being able to breathe, and they
than
know there are good
Mr.
jobs
Trump,
and getting
who's
us
a
there.
developer.
And by the way, the
Already made a
fastest
mistake.
growing industry in America is the electric. Solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, $45-50 an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have
We
to
are
follow.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do.
Thank
It's
you.
extremely expensive.
He's a
Kills
developer,
all the birds.
dude.
It's very intermittent.
What do you
A lot of
know,
people
bro?
just
You
happen
don't.
to make the
You
windmills
did the
and
crime bill.
turn
You
it
just said
into-
sorry now.
The fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up.
He's a
to make
developer,
these
my dude.
massive
Come on, give him
windmills
credit,
is
bro.
more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a
Solar.
scientist in that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So
False.
it's all a pipe dream.
How do you
But
know,
what
bro?
we'll do? We're gonna have the greatest economy in the
Tú eres
world.
un viejo,
If you
bro.
wanna build the economy,
You probably got the pens on right
your
now.
Oil industry. You want
Just to say he's a fraud. The guy's a
All right,
developer.
let me allow Vice President Biden to
I
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
Put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking.
Joe Biden.
Capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money and doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more
Joe
question.
Biden
This time,
disagrees
Mr.
with
Media.
fracking.
He was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said no fracking.
Oh, you said it. You said it.
Let me ask
You
this
said
final
it.
question.
You said
in
it.
this
That you
section,
said it.
And then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was under in 3 years than it was under 8 years of Trinidad, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody needs, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that they're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. No matter how many times Donald Trump lies about me.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
I'm not banning fracking. No matter how many times Donald Trump lies about me. Russia.
I don't know.
Way back, we saved our oil industry,
Don't say.
and now it's very vibrant.
All right.
Everybody
I
has
get
very
research
inexpensive
done
gas.
quick.
Vice President
My
Biden,
research
your
game
response, response, and then we're going to have a
Insert.
final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute. Chemical plants
And
oil
he
plants
said it. Oh,
refiners that pollute.
not on
I used to live
federal.
near that when I
Not
was
by-
growing up in
once you-
Claremont, Delaware. And
Judges,
all the oil refineries
the way they
are
pick you
dislocated
off is
Delaware
like
River
you say. You
areas,
said no, I didn't do
places
that, and then you'd be like,
polluting and
maybe I
used
did it one time, but I didn't do it
My
this
mom
time.
get in the car
They'd be
and
like,
when the
liar.
first frost
So a
came out
liar.
of school, turning the windshield wiper, there'd be oil stuck in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions that the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would you
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil
It
industry?
falls.
Would you close down the
By
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's a big
transition.
statement.
That is a big statement.
That's a
because I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes
That was good.
significantly.
I
And
see.
here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And
That
I
was
stopped
good.
giving
That was good. He
to
got
the
him.
oil industry.
And
I
she
stopped
got in
giving
too.
the
She was
federal
like,
subsidies.
play yourself.
You won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All right.
to solar and wind.
We have
That's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question.
is he is going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that Pennsylvania?
There you go.
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final
Yo,
question.
my
That's
nigga! My
everything
TJ
I
White
got.
as hell. Only these right here. I
We
ain't
have
going
to
this way.
move toward a net
He got
zero
you, bro.
emissions.
He got
The
you.
first place to do that by the year 2035.
Hook, line, and
reduction
whatever the
by
say. I'm not a
2050
fisherman.
totally.
All right. One
Is he
final
gonna get
question.
China to do it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he going to get
We have
China
to
to
move on
do
to
it?
our final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin
question.
Paris Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right, this is about leadership.
Also, you're going to do
gentlemen.
business with China.
And this
Okay.
first question
Yeah, just point
does
that
go
out.
to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you.
We have to make a country
Great.
totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, number one in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side.
Trump, you
wanted
said
to
that
get
in the town
together.
hall.
They
A mí no me
wanted
gusta
to
cuando se
unify.
repiten la
Success
gente.
is going to
Tú
bring
eres-
us together.
You know,
We are
you're
on
my
the road to
peeps, but
success.
I'm going to be
But I'm
fair. I don't like when
taxes,
people
and
repeat
he wants
what
to
they
raise
say.
everybody's taxes, and he wants to
Oh,
put
there
new
you go.
regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which
I'm
you've
telling you,
never seen.
people,
Your
y'all not
401ks
looking. I'll
will
be
go to
doing,
hell, and it'll
I'll
be
be
very, very
reading
sad
like
day
no
for this
tomorrow. The
country.
taxes,
Vice
62%
President
in
Biden,
New
final question
York.
to you. What will you
So
say
take a
during your
little bit of money
inaugural
that you
address
probably
to
make
Americans who did not
and
vote
go
for
like
you?
this. Alexa,
I'm an American president.
how much is
I represent
62%
all
of
you, whether you voted for me or against me.
50,000?
And I'm going to make sure
And then
that
see
you're
what it
represented.
is.
I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose
look, he's
to
reading.
move forward because
He's
there's
reading.
enormous opportunities.
He's reading.
enormous
Science over
opportunities
fiction.
to make things better.
Love
We can
over
grow this
hate.
economy. We can deal with the systemic racism.
Condoms
At
over
the same
rubbers.
time, we can make sure that
Biden
our
care
economy
under
is
I don't
being
care.
Run and moved and motivated.
Butter
by
over
clean
fly.
energy, creating millions of new
Coke
jobs.
over
And that's the
Pepsi.
fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm
Corny.
going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this
So
country.
what is he reading?
Decency.
What is he
honor,
reading?
Respect, treating people with dignity,
The teleprompter,
making sure
look.
that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure.
I'm gonna tell you when he's over.
You
Watch.
haven't been getting
When
it
he
the
turns
last
away.
4 years.
All right. I want
Look,
to
he
thank
turned
you
away.
both
He's not
for
reading
a
no
very
more.
robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President.
Oh, that's
Joe
it? It's
Biden.
over? 'Cause
Thank
I'm
you to
sleepy.
Belmont University for
Yo, what
hosting
up?
us tonight.
What did you
And
think?
most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is
Trump,
November
to
3rd.
me,
Don't
did
forget.
well.
Thank you, everybody.
Biden
Have
was
a
so
great day.
rehearsed. He did well. but he was more like rehearsed. I just want to see what they're gonna say the next 5 minutes.
The final debate of 2020.
Let's go.
Spirited at times.
Look at this the beautiful first lady. She's so beautiful. Trump is the man, kid.
Dr. Joe Biden with a mask there. It was a debate.
She's beautiful too. I'm not gonna lie. Biden's wife is beautiful.
Dr.
Dr. Jill Biden.
How that was going to factor in.
She's so loving to her husband. That needs to be loved.
It's got a lot more to say than obviously that first debate.
But your husband and your whole family's going down. It's a lot of stuff I want to know about that. I have the right as a citizen.
Politician attacking Joe Biden for being in Washington for 47 years. And
That's
what
not
did you
called
get done in the 8
That's a
years that
fact.
you were vice president?
You dick.
Vice President Biden
Was he not in Washington for 47 years? That's not attacking him, you dick.
The country together, having some of
Hate
the
that
strongest
shit.
moments in that framework. Pretty spirited, but got a lot of substance in it.
Yeah, it was a very constructive evening. I think that Americans saw 96 minutes, I think it was in the end, of a very spirited debate. The 2-minute introductory,
Alright, it's
the
over.
2-minute response seemed to work well. I think that President Trump is probably going to